Hi, my name is Carmen, and this is speech for CST 100, and this is my audience.
Hello.
Bonsoir. All right. So I love dogs. I recently welcomed a little puppy into my home, and besides, the noise and the mess and the little accidents here and there, he really did bring a lot of joy and a lot of love into our lives. And I know I'm not alone in my love for animals, especially dogs. Do you guys know people that own dogs?
Yes. Yeah, sure.
Yes, I'm sure you do, right? And it's not a surprise since looking at the statistics from the American Pet Products Association, I realized that in the US alone, 78.2 million dogs are owned. So with this in mind, I would like to talk to you about the not so pretty face of dog ownership, and that is the dogs that are considered dangerous breeds, and the dangers that they bring to the families that own them, and the crimes associated with these kind of dogs and these kind of breeds. So we have to start by saying that even though all kind of breeds, dogs breeds are potentially dangerous, there are some breeds that have been associated with more attacks and fatalities and human fatalities than any other breeds in the world. The CDC, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, states that 4.5 million people are bitten by dogs each year.
Wow.
I know that's a great number.
That's a lot.
I know, and so of those people, half of them are between the ages 5 and 9. Which is not very surprising either. So, and of these people, 885,000 require some sort of treatment in an emergency care, and 16 of them die. So today, I will try to persuade you to seek a change in how our legislation tries to control dog attacks, and how efficient have these legislations and regulations really proven. We will first talk about these so-called dangerous dogs breeds, and then we will cover the laws and the regulations that are actually in place right now. And we will finish by proposing some changes to these regulations to try to raise public awareness of how to deal with these breeds and these dogs attacks. So as I said, first we'll start describing what are these dangerous dog breeds. What does this really mean? The ASPCA proposes a definition of dangerous dogs as who inflict unjustified serious injury toward people or other animals. But we do have to make a distinction between dangerous and vicious dogs. So dangerous dogs are those dogs that can potentially harm somebody by biting, jumping, or grabbing. So you're probably thinking that's any dog, right? I mean, any dog can jump, any dog can, grab, and so it's a very broad definition. So on the other hand, a vicious dog is one of those dogs that has done or communicated by its actions the intention, habit, tendency, or propensity to do something harmful to people. A dog can be considered dangerous but not vicious, and the definition of these two depends on each jurisdiction, so it varies. According to the Clinton study, which is a study that occurred in the United States and Canada between 1982 and 2006, the dogs that were responsible for the most human fatalities are, in order, pit bulls, Rottweilers, German Shepherds, Huskies, Alaskan Malamutes, Doberman Pinschers, Chows, Great Danes, Saint Bernards, and Akitas. Okay, so at this point, I know, it's surprising, but these are the numbers of that study. And what we have to think at this point, and you're probably thinking, why, isn't it kind of wrong to define a whole breed for the actions of an individual dog or an individual group of dogs? And it is, and we have to be careful when we're dealing with this, to not generalize, not stereotype a breed of dog. So that brings me to my second point, and are the laws that we currently have in place really ensure the public safety and the dog safety? Well, institutions like the ASPCA are opposed to the BSL legislation, that is the breed-specific legislations. So these laws try to very strictly regulate what kind of breeds can be bred. And in some cases, they even ban certain breeds. And these laws are just based these laws are passed after an unfortunate event happens, after something happens as a reaction to something. If a dog attacks a person, then everybody gets scared and they pass a law forbidding or regulating that breed. So as a consequence of these, dog shelters all over the country are flooded with these kind of dogs. And if you take a look at any of your community shelters, they are full with pit bulls and Rottweilers. People get scared. They create a culture of panic, and people don't want to deal with it. They don't want to take any chances. They abandon their dogs. So what do you think? Do you think that you would react like this? Would you be one of those owners that decides to abandon their dogs just because?
I hope I wouldn't be that kind of owner, just to learn about the breed before.
Yeah. Education is a key.
Yes.
Yeah.
Probably research the dog before I even bought or purchased.
Exactly.
Right.
And we're going to discuss that right now.
You have to teach your kids. I mean, it's not because you have a dog and okay, I know everything about the dogs. You have to make sure the kids don't treat the dog poorly.
Exactly.
Since they seem to be the most
ones most in danger. Yeah. And that's exactly, that many studies that have been done, they say that it's not the breed itself, but the owner's responsibility what makes the dog unsafe ultimately. So these laws are very inefficient. They have been proven very inefficient since they try to almost eradicate these breeds without addressing the real questions and the very important data, like how is this dog being trained? Has it been trained to react aggressively? And they don't deal with crimes such as dog fighting and aggressive dog training. So now that we know that these laws have proven to be ineffective, and they don't really help reduce the incidence of attacks, but they create fear in the public, what can we do to make it better, to introduce some changes that can better the situation? Well, most animal protection associations agree that the best way to reduce the number of attacks, there are many ways, but low-cost neuter your dogs. They say that neutered dogs are 2.6 times more likely to bite than those dogs that are neutered. The licensing requirements to license your dog, to make sure that your dog has all the paperwork.
Responsibility.
Exactly, responsibility. You're proactive. You're taking care of that dog. Leash locks, of course.
Yes.
Keep your dog on a leash at all times to protect everybody else. Of course, owner's liability. To impose larger fines and even jail time
You
for
have to
those
be accountable.
Yeah, for the negligent owners, people that don't take it seriously. They own a very strong dog and they don't care. They have to be held responsible somehow. Through educational programs, there's a lot of programs out there for owners of pets of this kind and all the public to educate ourselves. Supervision, of course, especially with children. If you have small children and you have any kind of pet, really, you should pay attention to protect both the child and the pet. So also I found interesting restraining and unchaining. Keep your dog in your yard. Allowing your dog to walk freely in your neighborhood is a bad idea because they learn that that's their territory all over and they attack anybody that is in that territory. But do keep your your dog out of a chain. Because it releases stress when they are in a chain, they are stressed out, they are more vulnerable, and they are, they are more prone to attack. Exactly. So fencing is key. Is better to keep your dog. So raise public awareness. Education of the public is key when you are, dealing with these kind of situations. And the one thing that I can stress enough is pick the right dog for you and your family. So
That's what they have to tell you.
exactly. Talk to a vet. Research about the breed before you get that dog. That some dogs do better with some environments and some do better with others. So get informed, be proactive before you get that dog. And with all these things, hopefully we can, eliminate or reduce greatly the amount, these attacks and these things from happening. So as a conclusion today, I try to persuade you to take a deeper look into the dangerous dogs breeds and the effectiveness of the current legislation to prevent dogs attacks. We started by defining the terms of dangerous and vicious dogs. We took a look at the actual and the regulations that are actually in place and how effective they are. And we finally introduced some alternatives to these laws that have proven more effective. So I want to thank you so much for your attention today, and I hope I have persuaded you to educate yourself about effective ways to reduce dogs attacks.
Thank you.
Thank you.